A Soul Level 1 run is a rite of passage for challenge runners. If someone is trying their hand at challenge running for the first time, this is usually where they start. Even I recommend this when someone asks me how to get into challenge running, and for good reason. A Soul Level 1 gets you used to having to work around restrictions, and as you improve you can gradually add your own restrictions to make it more challenging, things like no hit, no roll, etc. In my case, I'll be keeping it fairly simple, which I know is strange because I'm famous for overcomplicating even the simplest of runs. The only rules I'll be adding is that I must use a different weapon for every boss, and I won't be using magic aside from support spells like Water Veil. The other rule is I am not allowed to use the Thief's Ring. That way I can't cheese any bosses, and I can't rush through areas mindlessly. I'll actually have to use my brain to pass each level. Demon Souls doesn't have a lot of bosses, but it does have a lot of options for weapons in a Soul Level 1 run. I was surprised at how much variety there is. In fact, there are more weapons than bosses, which I was not expecting at all, but we still got to use most of our options in a single cycle. Although this isn't the most original run out there, I had a lot of requests to do a Soul Level 1 in Demon Souls. While there are a few videos up about it already, the world could always use more Demon Souls videos, right? Before I start, I also want to point out that a similar run has been done in Dark Souls by Press Continue. So if you like this sort of thing, I'll leave a link to his video in the description if you haven't seen it already. Alright, now that everything's been covered, let's start the run. I accidentally skipped the tutorial level, so no Vanguard this time, and we'll have to start with whatever items our character comes with. We are playing as the Royalty class, which is the one and only starter class that starts at level 1. Despite that, I'd say that this class starts out a lot stronger than the others since we have magic and an FP regenerating ring, but of course we will be using neither of those things in this run. Instead, we'll be relying on our buckler to help us parry the enemies in our way so we can finish them off with our rapier. Sometimes all these enemies get overwhelming for a weak level 1 character like ourselves. It was very nice of Ostrava to volunteer to clear them out for us. You, struggling over there? Huh. Alright then. I'll just have to go through Latria alone. I guess we can start picking up a few items in this corridor. The scimitar is a good Soul Level 1 weapon, so we'll take that for later. As I approach the Dragon Bridge, I want to lure it out and make sure it starts its fire-breathing animation. I was told that while it's busy doing that, you have enough time to run to the roost and pick up the items before it gets back. The only item I really care about is the Ring of Great Strength. Even if I die while getting that, it's not a big deal. I can easily get these souls back if I repeat the strategy I just mentioned. Once I've crossed over to pull the lever, I pick up the turpentine on my way out before returning to the Nexus to buy a weapon for the phalanx. I'm choosing to save my rapier for now, and instead I'm going to use a dagger for the phalanx. We won't need to do any upgrades on it since we have turpentine. The fire damage from that will be more than enough to melt through the phalanx and her wall of hoplites. Seeing as we've picked up a few weapons and have some turpentine to spare, why don't we push on ahead through 1-2 before opening up the rest of the archstones? There's another weapon lying on the ground for us to pick up, the winged spear. We'll have to buy the others from the Dregling merchant when we're done with the fight. Since I have turpentine, I'm bringing an unupgraded mailbreaker to deal with the Tower Knight. The first order of business is to take out these archers. I'm trying to kill them without knocking them off, so I use one light attack, then a heavy attack. Even if they get knocked down after this, they'll die from the fall damage. Once I've dealt with the archers, the Tower Knight will be very easy to knock down with all the extra fire damage. I almost two-cycled him, but unfortunately he blasted me away before I could get in that last hit, just to spite me and waste my time. Thankfully, it only took a few more pokes to his ankle to finish the job. With all these souls, we can stock up on weapons in case we need them. I'll buy the short spear and the broadsword. Even if I don't use them, it's better to keep my options open. As I decide where I want to go next, I speak with Thomas to get the Ring of Herculean Strength. This might be a weird choice, but I decided to go to the Shrine of Storms first. The main reason is for Blige. He's a really good merchant for healing items, and he sits right next to the spawn point. Of course, we'll need to free him from his cell first, and we don't have the Thief's Ring this time, so we need to play this level very patiently. The initial skeleton choke point can be hard to deal with. Even when I try to lure them out one at a time, I always manage to wake up more than one. If that happens to you, this is when the terrain starts to be your strongest weapon. Most of the level isn't as open as this first section, so I try to keep my shield up and use mostly backstabs and parries to clear out any skeletons lurking in the corridors. While I was here, I went to pick up the Crescent Falchion +1, so I could have an easier time clearing out the level. We can't upgrade it further without beating the Flame Lurker, but the level it starts with is more than enough for earlier levels like this one. Once we make it to Blight's cell, we can buy a couple of things from him before we head towards the boss. For now, all I want is the short bow and as many pieces of sticky white stuff as he'll let me buy. Adjudicator's gonna be identical to the Tower Knight fight. It's the same gimmick, so we'll use the same strategy, this time with a rapier. After knocking it down the first time, I buff with Turpentine and spam light attacks. That's really all there is to this fight. Even so, the Adjudicator did the same thing to me that the Tower Knight did and somehow managed to slip away from me before I could take away that last little bit of health. It sure feels weird not being able to use all these souls to level. I need to spend these on something. Wait, actually, I want another ring to add to my collection. And Estrava died already, so we should challenge Doran for his ring. What could go wrong? Okay, so he can bleed, but bleed kinda sucks in this game, so it's not really helping much. We can do this. It's the same parry timing as earlier. No pressure. What? How dare you hit me with a mix-up? You're supposed to be mashing into my parries. Well, I suppose I don't have anything to lose anymore. I even got desperate and tried to lure him out to knock him off a ledge somewhere, but he would not follow me, no matter what. So that ring is staying where it is. Stamina is overrated anyways. Today I feel like playing the game in a weird order, so next I'll be going through the Valley of Defilement. We've got quite a few weapons we can pick up around here, and like the previous area, I want to keep my shield up at all times since I have no Thief's Ring to protect myself against droves of depraved ones. At least the layout of the area is made in a way that allows you to pick fights with a few at a time. This area only really starts to be a problem if you try to rush. Normally I get too scared to drop down here where all the enemies are, so I try to make it to the shortcut before they can hit me. But this time I have no choice, because without the Thief's Ring, they can see me above them, so they'll start crowding around the platform. So I'll just run as far ahead as I can and take out the guy in front of the fog wall first. Once I make it to this next little room, I'll hopefully have enough space to pick off the others one at a time. The Crescent Falchion is a great weapon for this area. The magic damage is very effective against the depraved ones, and as a curved sword, the wide arcs in its slashes are perfect for levels like this one, where enemies tend to come in groups of 3 to 5. As you may have noticed, I am playing through this level in soul form, at least until I make it to the boss, and that's because of that damn shove. The moment I think I'll be okay without a shield, they decide to pull that one out. And I definitely wouldn't want to make things worse by shifting world tendency towards black. Alright, once I get back to where I was, I buy the war pick off the filthy woman as well as any other wares that I can afford. From here, I go back up to get the Ring of Magical Dullness for when we'll need some extra magic defense, then we're off to the Leechmonger. But first, I need to choose a weapon, and the one I chose was the Blessed Mace +1 we can get on the other side of the shortcut bridge near the boss arena. I might as well spend all my money just in case I lose it all, so I use it to get a decent supply of black turpentine before the filthy woman moves to a less convenient location. At soul level 1, we have to two-hand the mace to use it, but that's fine because I typically don't use the one-handed moveset of hammers anyway. Damage is okay. It wasn't crazy enough to cancel out the healing completely, but since this is a blessed weapon, we are also healing and canceling out a good portion of the damage over time from the leeches, so I guess it's fair. In the end, the mace was faster, so we didn't have to waste too much time on the healing gimmick. From here, we'll start clearing out the Stonefang Tunnel as we make our way to the first Archdemon, but first, we'll buy some Sharpstone from the Filthy Man to upgrade the short spear we'll be taking with us. We don't need to upgrade it too much for just the first part of the level. Most of the enemies in this level are vulnerable to pierce or thrust damage, so its damage will still be decent regardless of its upgrade level. As I clear out the area, I try to kill all of the sack wielders I find to start stocking up on upgrade materials. Even if I will be duping in this run, I still need to have the things I want to dupe in my inventory. Without the Thief's Ring, I need to be extra careful around the dogs in this level. The spear is really good for dealing with the miners hiding in the narrow tunnels. I can poke them a bit to get them out of their hiding spot and kill them before they get a chance to ambush me. The pickaxe is another good weapon for a soul level 1, so I'll pick that up in case I want to use it later. Alright, let's pull that lever so we can activate the lift shortcut. Once that's done, we can continue what we were doing and start making our way over to Armor Spider. The short spear is really a lifesaver in this section with the fire lizards. These guys can be a pain to deal with since getting close to them will damage you, but with a spear, you don't have to get close. It's weird to play through these levels without the Thief's Ring. It makes you forget how far the enemy aggro range really is. These dogs were already making their way up the ramp to kill me while I was occupied with the lizards, but thankfully the spear has a ridiculous hitbox that somehow skewers 3 dogs at once. The rest of the level mostly consists of turning a couple more handles. Then we'll finally get to challenge the area boss. Since the boss is weak to pierce damage already, I decided to save my sticky white stuff as we clearly are doing enough damage on our own. As usual, I get her a little below half health before she does the first fire blast, and after that I simply run back through the tunnel and finish the fight within a minute or two. We've got a lot of work to do before we're ready for the Flame Lurker. Our first task is to defeat Patch's trap and claim the rewards. I brought along the Crescent Falchion so the bear bug won't take a million years to kill, since it's weak to magic damage and all. As a little bonus, it also can be bled out, and while it's a small amount of damage over time, it is much appreciated nonetheless. Now for our rewards. First, we'll get the Ring of Flame Resistance, and of course we'll also pick up the club that Patches was trying to trap us with. I've got some souls to spend, so why not buy some large shards from the Filthy Man while I'm down here as well. The last thing I need to do is get the Dragon Longsword from the tunnels. Then we can leave for now and start preparing for the fight. Out of all the physical damage types, the Flame Lurker is weakest against blunt damage, so I'll take the Morning Star we got back in 5-1 and upgrade it to +7. And last but not least, let's get our Catalyst out of storage and buy Water Veil for some extra fire defense. I find it funny how even without the Thief's Ring, he still can't see you if you don't move from in front of the fog gate. Obviously, I'll be taking advantage of this weakness of his to apply all my buffs. For this fight, I don't want to be locking on too much because I don't want to restrict my rolling directions, so what I try to do is roll around his sides and lock on only when I intend to attack him. When my turn is over, I release my lock and try to dodge around him again. This fight is always inconsistent for me. While I try to avoid dodging into him because of his AoEs, sometimes dodging into him lets me roll through his legs and avoid damage. Anytime I performed a frame-perfect dodge like that, it was an accident and I couldn't replicate it. Most of the time, rolling into him was not a good idea. As soon as Water Veil ran out and he became more enraged, a single mistake could cost the run, so I tried to top off my health with Crescent Grass no matter how unnecessary it seemed. The Ring of Flame Resistance was the only thing keeping me alive at this point. When he starts glitching out and doing nothing, that's your chance to wail on him before he snaps out of it. I got very greedy here and almost got flung straight into a lava pool, but somehow I was able to do this without dying, and the next fight is much easier. So why don't we go ahead and get it out of the way? The Dragon God is a good fight to use our club on. Since it can't be upgraded, we don't have to worry about wasting a good weapon here. As you know, I've died to this with the Thief's Ring, so I really need to contain my urge to rush through and be as patient as I can. If I hear a roar, I stop attacking debris and hide. I won't try to push my luck this time. I wasn't trying to push my luck, but luck found its way to me in this fight regardless. After I broke the first pile of debris, he got angry and broke all of the debris in front of it, so I had a cleared out path to the first ballista without having to play hide and seek. The second part is a little easier since he'll be in pain from the wound, giving us extra time to make it across before he notices us. At this last part, I think it's better to keep running after the roar. Once you make it to the stairs, you should be too far away for any of his attacks to reach you. Now for the easy part. All we have to do is put him out of his misery. To save time, I put on Water Veil so I can tank through the fire and keep attacking. After a few minutes, we've slain our first Archdemon of the run, and got a pure Dragonstone in the process. Using the Dragonstones we've already collected, we can go back to the Nexus to dupe them with Thomas. They can also be farmed legitimately from bear bugs, but with the way item drops work in this game, it would literally take a whole day, if not more, to get all the chunks I need. Once we've done that, we'll turn in the Flame Lurker's soul so Ed can upgrade our Dragon Longsword. Dragon Infusion is a good choice for a Soul Level 1 run, since it removes stat bonuses and replaces it with high base damage, as a Soul Level 1 build can't benefit much from scaling anyway. A strong weapon like this would only go to waste in one of the easier areas, so I'm using it to help me get through the Shrine of Storms, since the enemies here can be tough to get past. Reluctantly, I let Patches kick me down into the pit. If I don't, he won't come back to the Nexus, and he's my best grass supplier, so I can't have that. Once I, beat his trap again, I get back on track and start heading deeper into the tomb. In order to get past the enemies, we'll need to do a lot of trickery. We can take advantage of the skeleton's aggression and get them to roll off the cliff. For the first one, just vault back up and hug the flagpole, and the skeleton should roll off trying to catch you. The second skeleton will also roll off if you stop at roughly the pointed agros. Just keep your shield up throughout this process so you don't get sniped by any manta rays on your way down. The ghosts are actually pretty easy to deal with. I just spammed soul remains and was able to get through them without too many issues. I thought that maybe being in body form without the Thief's Ring would make this fight at least a little more challenging than usual, but the old hero still didn't seem to hear me very well. It didn't help that he kept trying to do his AoE. It's a lot weaker than it looks, so it's basically a free punish every time. The fire damage worked really well here, and the fight as a whole took less than a minute. I didn't even take a single hit. The Storm King will actually be a little more difficult for a Soul Level 1 character, mainly because of its minions. I have to zigzag my way across the arena to get the Storm Ruler. Once I get it, I have to zigzag my way back to the safe spot behind the building. The rest of the fight consists of me poking out of my hidey hole for a few seconds at a time to kill manta rays until I finally get the boss to come down. I forgot how close you need to be with this. I think it's been a while since I actually used the Storm Ruler for this. There we go, that's another Archdemon down. I'd say it's about time we went to the third Archstone. For this part, I don't need much more than a humble short sword. Once it's upgraded to +7, it'll be fine for the Fool's Idol. Since I have nothing to spend all my money on, I went out of my way to buy the upgrade materials I need from the Filthy Man in both of his locations. The short sword is one of the few weapons a Soul Level 1 character can wield in one hand, which is good for this level because the thrust is often the only way I can hit the Mind Flayers in these narrow corridors. There's another weapon I can wield in one hand that I can pick up here, and that is the Secret Dagger. We'll be using it pretty soon. As weak as we are, it's a good idea to get some better armor since we have the Ring of Great Strength to boost our max equip load. I should be able to wear most of the fluted set and even mix it with a few pieces of light armor without heavy rolling. You know what? I sort of feel like living on the edge today. Fine, I won't do it. Excuse me for trying to be a risk taker. Guess I have to go around like a coward. Oh yeah, that means I'll be needing a symbol of my cowardice. Better take the ring then. Let's kill the Necromancer before I forget, and I suppose I'll take out the Crossbow Phantom too. The less things in my way, the better. For some reason I can never react to the first swing of her dagger to parry it, but when I block the first hit and then parry the second one, it's much easier. I still don't want to risk catching the plague and getting comboed, so I'll stick with backstabs, because those are ridiculously easy to get in this game. The Fool's Idol is also ridiculously easy, even at Soul Level 1, though I will admit her magic can be a little scary with such low health, but thankfully I remembered to put on the Ring of Magical Dullness. While I was in here, I picked up the Baby's Nail just for the hell of it, but it's a really terrible weapon, so I highly doubt I'll be using it for anything. There wasn't much to say about this fight. I made a few mistakes and got caught in a couple traps here and there, but overall it was a standard encounter with the Fool's Idol, and it was as if I weren't underleveled at all. Let's start getting a scimitar ready for the next part of the tower. +7 is as far as we can take it for now. That should be fine for the enemies in this level. From here, we can go through with our usual routine, starting by gently persuading Yurt to give us the Gloom set so we'll have some fashion when we're going through the swamp. The scimitar is another weapon we can use with one hand since it's a dex scaling weapon, and this is pretty useful when we're dealing with the man centipedes. They tend to come in groups, so it's a good idea to keep my shield up just in case one of them tries to jump on me from behind. They don't seem very threatening, but their damage should not be taken lightly when our health is this low. I like the flexibility the scimitar has in this run. Sometimes I choose to two-hand it for the extra damage in cases where blocking isn't that important, like against these mostly stationary gargoyles. Of course, taking the time to kill them made me miss my stop, but it's okay. This is just part of my training and patience. For the man-eaters, I wouldn't say patience is something you use, but rather that the fight forces upon you when they take their sweet time flying a few laps around the arena. Once one of them actually lands, I feel like the fight is rushing you more than it's encouraging patience, since there's a constant pressure to kill the first one in time to prevent it from becoming a gank fight. Thank God I didn't put my grindstones in storage this time. The scimitar isn't the most durable weapon out there, so I should have expected that it would start to break sometime during this fight. Although locking on isn't always beneficial in this game, I did use it for the first man-eater, so I could focus on cutting off his tail to restrict his moveset. That also makes him less likely to hang around in the air and waste my time. Stocking up on all that black turpentine was done for this fight and this fight alone. This fight is the original DPS check of the Souls series, so I want to be sure I pass it. There were a couple of moments that made my stomach drop when I was fighting this, but by some miracle I managed to avoid death every time and did this in one go. I think the secret dagger would be good against an NPC, since we'll be relying on critical hits. So let's upgrade it and take care of the old monk. I have plenty of black turpentine to go around, so now it won't take 20 minutes just to kill everything in front of the boss. Also, on a weapon like the dagger with a really high DPS, you can use the fire to stun lock the mind flayers before their hyper armor kicks in. Now, about that patience I said I was building up, this is a fight where I'll actually get to utilize it. The old monk attacks very quickly, so I'm not going to risk it trying to parry him. Instead, I'll circle around him with my shield up and fish for backstabs. I can take maybe 1 or 2 slashes at him with the dagger to get him to do something, but if I attack him too much, I'll get parried, which will absolutely result in my death, so let's not do that. It's kind of funny how I'm used to the stricter window for backstabs and keep overcompensating by doing a full circle around him every time. I almost forgot to put on my magic defense ring for this. That would have been bad. You can see that even when I get clipped by just 1 or 2 projectiles, it is taking a decent chunk out of my health. Thankfully, this guy can't punish for shit, and decides to do a charged attack right in front of my face. Thanks for the free buff, loser. There we go. That wasn't so bad. I took my time waiting for backstab opportunities, and it paid off. Let's see, for the Valley of Defilement, we want something like the Winged Spear. That way, we don't have to touch the enemies to fight them and catch all their diseases. For the most part, I'll try to avoid the enemies in this level and sneak around them the best I can without the Thief's Ring. However, trying to avoid the Island of Depraved Ones makes the encounter with this phantom unavoidable, so we'll be forced to fight her up close and personal on this tiny piece of land. Thankfully, Black Turpentine is OP, so I could burn her to death before she gets another chance to use her Meat Cleaver hyper armor. From here, I'll carefully skirt around the left edge of the island to reach the first fog gate without alerting the Depraved Ones. I'd much rather take my chances with the poison swamp than the mosquitoes, so once I make it to the wooden platform, I jump off the first chance I get before those little demons catch wind of my blood. Today, we're running straight to the boss, no getting the shortcut nonsense. I don't want to risk it with those mosquitoes. I don't know how in the world I survived the journey here, but I did it. Now that I'm in the safety of the boss arena, I have nothing else to worry about. I can put on that black turpentine and stab away. What's Stinky over here gonna do about it? So like I was saying, I didn't get the shortcut. I just don't get how I could get through a whole playthrough without dying to a single boss until the dirty Colossus of all things. Well, it's done now. There's no use getting worked up over it at this point. I need to move on. The Crescent Falchion's been helping me get through a lot of levels, but I still haven't used it against a boss. So now's as good a time as any to start upgrading it to prepare for Garl Vinland. Crescent weapons require Dark Moonstones to upgrade. The shard version can be purchased from Blige, while the chunks are only obtainable from lizards or from farming the Reapers. I wasn't lucky enough to get any chunks, so of course I'm going to dupe them once I get at least 1 in my inventory. There's 1 lizard that drops them if you go through the illusory wall that leads to the White Bow. I'd recommend finding a good place to kill it first, and then quitting out before it despawns or falls off a cliff. it can be tricky to catch this one with the manta rays already shooting at you. Once those are all duped, we can upgrade it to +4. I didn't manage to get any pure Dark Moonstone for a +5. Even though I'm keeping buffs to a minimum in this run for a little more of a challenge, I decided to take a risk for this fight and let him get me into rat ring range. Our damage is good, but not super insane. I've parried him to death many times by now, so I don't get as nervous as I used to. I always look forward to flinging him aside like the little pest he is. Go on, hurry up and die. I don't have enough health to wait around all day. Now that we're finally going to the last section of the Boletarian Palace, we can prepare one of our finest weapons for the occasion, that being the war pick. At this point in the game, I would like to upgrade it past +6, but I don't have any chunks. Luckily, there is a conveniently placed lizard at the start of the inner ward that drops just the kind of chunks we need. Once our war pick is good and upgraded, we're all set. Perhaps we're even ready to challenge Doran again? Please? Never mind, we've made it to the end without that ring and we've been doing just fine. It's just that I have some bad memories of this area from my first Soul Level 1 attempt that I gave up on several years ago. This is the part of the game that made me give up. Things are different now. I'm too far gone to feel the pain anymore. I'm also going to cheat a little and throw some soul remains to distract the Red-Eyed Knights. It's funny how they can one-shot me, but the Penetrator can't. Of course, I could never forget the old adage, "Ha ha, the Penetrator is weak to sticky white stuff," so I brought mine along to buff the war pick. The war pick is one of the weapons that has a sweet spot for extra damage, so while it would benefit from the Master's Ring, I don't want to reduce my other damage since I probably won't always hit the sweet spot anyway. I'm fine with having a little surprise damage every now and then. It's not like I need much help for this fight. I only ever got hit once. Once the last of the King's Demon Knights is vanquished, we can start preparing a weapon to face the Old King himself. I haven't gotten to use a bow yet at all in this run, so I think I'm going to bring out the short bow for this. First, let's buy some arrows off of Patches, then get ourselves into rat ring range to start our hunt for hard stone chunks. If we're lucky, one of the mini crystal lizards in 2-2 will drop one for us, which of course we will then proceed to dupe. In order to upgrade it to max level, I also need to pick up the pure hardstone from the crystal lizard nest. After killing a few of the crystal lizards in a few different places, I finally got one. And you know what? We're almost done with the game, so why don't we have a little fun and try out hyper mode just once? This means we'll make the Morian Blade, which has the same effect as the Clever Rat's Ring, which will stack multiplicatively for a 140% total damage boost. Everything in this level will one-shot us, but since the buckler doesn't absorb all of the physical damage it blocks, we can use this flaw to our advantage to get our health to 30%. While the 140% damage boost sounds huge, in our case it's sort of underwhelming since the short bow has low damage as it is. So all it means for us is that it's doing the amount of damage you'd expect a +10 melee weapon to be doing at this point. Since I don't have the Thief's Ring, I can either take the risk and fight all the enemies on the way up the staircase, or try to run past them anyway. Thankfully, once you make it out to the bridge, the Red-Eyed Knight will lose interest. The fat official, on the other hand, can still see you and will shoot you with a fireball, so pay attention. In hyper mode, the dragon is less of a pain to kill. What normally takes over 10 minutes of shooting was condensed into only 3 minutes. So now if I die, the world tendency should shift back towards white, though I don't know how much of a difference that will actually make. I guess we'll find that out when we inevitably die to Old King Alant. When the fight starts, I take a little test shot just to see how it goes. So far, so good, even with the damage drop-off from shooting from so far away. Despite the fact that we are in hyper mode, the damage isn't anything ridiculous. In fact, I'd say hyper mode is the only way this bow would be capable of doing yellow damage. Since we're fighting with a bow, we mostly want to keep a good distance away from him. This means that he'll keep spamming the same 2 attacks. He'll either try the AoE or the Charge Slash. The Charge Slash can be tricky to dodge since it's a little glitchy at times, but I think I've finally gotten the timing down. It seems to be very consistent if you roll slightly later than you'd expect. Now you just have to hope he doesn't run into anything and throw off the timing. I did die once, but I got pretty close to doing this on the first try, so by my second attempt I had built up all the confidence I needed to kill him without getting hit. And you know, I may or may not have exploited his AI by getting him caught in a loop. As for Alant's true form, I brought along a humble battle axe and buffed it with black turpentine to make the fight go by faster. This is more of a cutscene than a fight. With that being said, I took a couple of hits here and I considered healing to be safe. But what would that say about me if I didn't have the confidence to beat true King Alant with low health? And so, I finished him like a true warrior would, fearless and with renewed purpose, as I set out to allow the old one to fall back into a deep slumber. Thank you everyone for watching the video. I always appreciate all of the ideas you give me in the comments, and for those who wanted a Demon Souls Soul Level 1, I hope you enjoyed what you got. As always, feel free to leave me suggestions for future videos, but if you don't have any, that's okay too. If you want to see even more challenge runs like this, you can take a look at my channel for even more videos about Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Elden Ring. Have fun, and I hope to see you again soon.